hope you all had a good Christmas. So I was just performing a bit of minor surgery. You know those big bobble pins that I've got that I use occasionally? Well, you may recall I'd pushed a couple into my cloth because, well, it was a good place to keep them. I just went and pulled one up and the bobble came off and the pin didn't come out. So I was just using a pair of pliers to pull the bobble off. So last time we met, I kind of didn't get very far. And I did hope to stream Christmas and Boxing Day. But as always, life got a little bit away from me. I was caught up with the fact that I went to do my Christmas dinner, as you do, and I realised that some of the pots and pans I wanted to use for Christmas dinner weren't as clean as I wanted them to be, so I went to put them in the dishwasher. I put them in the dishwasher, I said go, and it went, no. Inlet stroke drain issue. It's only got little lights, so it can't tell you much about it. It just kind of goes beep, 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 and flashes a light saying inlet stroke drain. Which is all well and good of it, and it's nice of it to say that it's unhappy. But, could you not have been slightly more specific about it? So, after poking around, I'm confident the water's going in. After poking around some more, I'm confident the water's coming out. And if that dog whines all day today, I'm going to kebab her. Amy! Will you stop? So I don't know what the inlet and drain issue is because, well, clearly it's got water and it can clearly dispose of the water. Well, that kind of covers both eventualities. So I have no idea. So obviously, by the time I'd done all of the poking around, I wasn't in the mood to cook my Christmas dinner anymore. But I wasn't in the mood for a lot of things. So I didn't. And I cooked it yesterday and had my Christmas dinner yesterday. So I've now got some leftovers. Because, well, that's what you do at Christmas. You cook far more food than you're ever going to eat. It's not going to last that long, to be honest. But because I'm not entirely stupid, I didn't buy a whole turkey. I didn't buy a whole, But I did cook quite a lot of roast potatoes. But then I really have a thing for roast potatoes, so they won't last very long. And so yes, I made my way through my Christmas dinner yesterday, and well, like all things, I got caught up doing. I've been poking around my game again because a guy has given me a tool which makes it possible to fix some of the stuff that's wrong with it. That's not my fault, if you know what I mean. And then I decided that kind of rather than fix all the lights because it's slightly laborious, a bit like the bookmark deviations for we've done already, is that taking each light, and because it works in world space, not local space, I can't say to it only project light back, say 30 centimetres, i.e. to the wall, and then don't send it any further because, well, it depends which direction the wall's in. So slightly annoying. It's not a local thing, it's a global thing, but I kind of get it, but it's also annoying. And he's doing some work, and he's put a few extra bits in it, and he realised this and he realised that, and there were quite a few things that weren't perfect and weren't ideal, but I was just grateful for the help, so I didn't want to moan. And so I didn't say anything. And so I've been poking around with that, but I actually got sidetracked on doing something completely different, which, no one in the world's ever going to know that I did from playing it. Amy! I'm going to tie her legs and string her from a pole in a minute. Amy! What is wrong with you? Can you just lie down and go to sleep? Sweetheart. You've got water, you've had some food, you had veggies, and you had things. Can you be, like, slightly less you? Yeah. Just a little bit. Just a little. Ah! I assume my neighbours have gone out, or someone's come to see them, or something. So yeah. And of course, his lordship was in the perfect spot. He was in a great spot. He's been sitting in it all day, and I've moved a little bit over on the couch to sit in my spot for doing lace making, and now he needs to be in a different spot too, and there isn't quite enough spot for the pair of us. So, yes. Anyway, enough of the moaning. It is time to get on with the lace making. So, here we go. Let me turn off the yawning, because I have not yet started yawning. Turn that off, because we don't need that yet. But of course it is only a yet, so I'm sure it will come. So, let's have a look. You two, and you two. So you can dangle off over there. And you're there. You're already done, because that's you can't redone. You're a bit long. So yes. It is a thing to be doing. Right. Get a bit set up. So we need to... You're all a bit long, actually. You don't need to be dangling off the bottom of the cushion. Rory, could you please sit still, my little man? Just. All I want for Christmas is 2 dogs that can just lie the down. Stay there for like 20 minutes. It's funny because, you know, when it suits them, they'll sleep and snooze and be as lazy as, well, frankly, as you can ever be. But when it doesn't suit them, they're annoying. Oh well. Maybe some form of sedation. That's what I need. Some form of, you know, high power sedation. Get to have a good nap. Short direction. In which case we need to start with you there. And we need 2 of you. No, I don't need you 2. Oh, out. No. Stop trying to escape. Oh, my good news, finally, my email is working again. Oh, for goodness sake, I hate these bits. Ever since, well, ever since ever, frankly. I've had issues with using email on my desktop. It sounds really pathetic because, of course, I do happily use my phone a lot for email and other things, partly because the only other choice I had was webmail. And webmail's all well and good, but it's kind of annoying. So I wanted to use Outlook because, well, I like Outlook. It's one of the few Microsoft products that I actually do kind of like. But it wouldn't connect. And, well, it hasn't connected for a really, really long time. I'm not quite sure when it stopped working. Because, as I say, primarily I often, I went through a spate of not using a desktop for a while and just using my phone and a tablet, and so from that point of view I didn't really notice till I got the desktop back in here, or rather I brought the desktop in here so that these dogs could do their thing and not be grumpy because the chair by the computer is too small to have me and two dogs in it. To be honest, there aren't many chairs that would take a human and two medium-sized dogs, let alone a fat human and two medium-sized dogs. So, it's no casting aspersions on the chair that I've got. It was more just a volume issue. So I bought it in here so I could sit on the couch. Now I work from home. It became more important that the dogs were comfortable, because otherwise all they do is annoy me all day. Not that they don't annoy me all day, but we try to limit the options that they have. Anyway, two issues arose. One, the table to put the machine on. I went through a large number of tables. It's going to sound stupid because I wanted a wheelie table so that you can move it so it's comfortable, and that you can also still get up, because obviously moving the couch isn't really the done thing like you would at a desk. But I also needed it to be big enough but small enough, and there were plenty of reasonable sized tables. The problem was the casters on the bottom, or in fact the fact that they weren't really proper casters. The plastic wheels that 90% of the wheelie tables have come with a locking mechanism, which is all well and good, because I see the point, I really do. But the problem occurred was that if you wheeled it, say, towards you, it would be fine. If you wheeled it away, it automatically locked. Every single table. And you'd look at them and they'd show, the picture would show different casters, and you'd be like, great, I'll get this one. No, it'd be the same freaking casters, right? And I tried all manner of things. I tied them up. I tried to super glue them so that they couldn't engage the kind of brake system. Other than smashing the wheels apart and all the rest of it, the tables varied in quality. So some broke just by moving them. Now, admittedly, it's got a monitor on the top, but it's not like I'm sitting on it, right? It's, but the monitor would, there was a kind of metal frame to it, and the metal frame wouldn't be properly soldered on, and then it would give, or depending on how the height adjustment worked, it would start slipping, or it wouldn't grip, or it's just catalogue of disasters, frankly. Anyway, So I decided to jump in with both feet, and I bought basically a hospital bed on the simple grounds that the hospital bed tables are designed to be long lasting, repeatedly moved around and adjusted, and have considerable weight scenarios, but it also has a hydraulic pump lift, so it's not, you're not trying to lift 30 kilos or whatever with your bare hands. It's pneumatic. It kind of almost comes up without you trying. And I went from having to replace the table every probably 3 months. I've had it nearly a year now, and it's still going strong. The casters do not have a locking mechanism, therefore, well, they just roll around as expected. The table has never moved when I didn't want it to, but it also moves when I want it to. It had to be big enough for me to put my keyboard table on, so that the keyboard was at a slightly better height than the actual table. I've got a pneumatic-y. Now this all looks really wrong. It's because you need to be crossed. It's got a pneumatic-y arm so it can swing around, but I can also adjust it and pivot it, and not that I ever do, but in fact it's about the only thing that does move that I don't want it to. You can't stop it swinging like this, which is slightly annoying. You can't tighten that up. I would love to be able to tighten that up. That would be ideal. But it's all good. I've got my table. I've got all my stuff on it. So that's a good thing. But obviously, the dog problem is still a problem, in that there is only, it's a 3-seater couch. There's enough room for 2 dogs and me. It really, really is. But I guess in their eyes, no, there isn't, because they like to be behind me, which is infuriating, frankly. Let's put these in here so I can chuck them away. So we can put you in here. Right. Falling off the edge is annoying. But the other strange effect of having my desktop on a table in front of me is that I don't watch stuff on my TV anymore. I watch it on my desktop because it's a 32-inch screen. It's kind of a foot away from me. Therefore, it's quite accessible. And, I can do other things with it as well as, watch a film or whatever. And to be honest, I primarily stream stuff, so rather than watch live TV. So, it makes no odds to me that I'm watching it on a computer. And the other advantages, of course, is that it's a lot closer. I've got my little sound bar at the bottom, which I upgraded. It's not a particularly expensive one, but I have finally upgraded my soundbar to a slightly better quality one. The only thing that I don't like about the new one, that the old one was better at, is when you first switch it on, you've got to hit the on button. It's capable of being battery powered and being done over Bluetooth, which of course is not what I'm doing, because that adds delay to the sound. So, and that I did try it, and that was just annoying. That's right, I can't see these pinholes. it's all USB, but what it does do is the moment you power it off, it goes into pairing mode because it thinks you've disconnected it from the power source, so now it's got to be USB to be in use. So it goes into pairing mode, and of course overnight runs flat, which is fine. But it does mean that when you come to turn your computer on in the morning, it's powered off, and it doesn't do anything when power arrives. I hate devices that do that. Stay in the state that I've left you. So if I left you powered on, when the power comes back, be on. That's kind of what we need. Anyway, so every morning I have to remember to turn it on. Otherwise I have no sound. Again, pros and cons. But it's a good little sound thing. It's got quite a bit more bass than the other one did. The other one, I won't say the other one was tinny, but because it wasn't noticeably tinny. But now I've got one that, well, isn't. You do notice some of the more rumbly, kind of deeper sounds. So, for example, like space aircraft or whatever, you do kind of, I won't say feel it, but you can. It's far more present, so it's got a much better range of sound on it. It's not particularly louder or quieter or anything, but it is just a better one. And it's going to sound really lame. Yeah, all the other thing it's very good at is stopping crap falling off the back of my table. So, small bonus. It was only about 30 quid, so, we're not talking extensive spending here. So yeah, I tried to make this as comfortable and as pleasant as I can, because I spend a lot of time here, so might as well. Because even when I'm working, it's on in front of me, it's there, it's available. I won't be doing anything with it, but it's there, it's available. I can have it pipe out some. I mean, I've got Alexa, but I've also got my computer with its lovely soundbar, which is far better quality, and I can play tunes while I'm working. I can have it reading me an audio book. Yeah, I know. Shut up. That's right. Bitch face woke up. Anyway, I can do all of that, or I can look up stuff on YouTube and see it on a decent sized screen, and all of those kind of joys in life. So, but when it comes to things like this, you need a computer, otherwise you can't stream it, obviously. But at the same time, the computer becomes very much in the way. Because the tables, well, there's my mouse. That glowy thing there is my mouse. Hang on a sec while I finish winding the bobbin. If I do this, you can see that here is my mouse. Look, it's my mic's here. Look, and I've got a Steam Deck, and I've got but at the same time, it gives me somewhere to put my pins. It's somewhere to put but also, I've got to have this, which is not a small object, the light, the tripod the light's on, everything stretched to the computer table so that, it goes behind the pillow. And I'm right-handed, so for whatever reason I always like stuff on my right. Even though you'd think to an extent I'd want all the incidentals to my left out the way. No, for some reason I like them on my right. And so, but at the same time, if I was to move this to the other side of my computer table, everything would be in the wrong place because all my incidentals would be on the right. And so but then the cables don't really reach from the computer, and it's just complicated. And having dogs doing dog things, definitely it's not a healthy thing. I would prefer them to do what they're doing now, which is sitting down and being quiet. Which they haven't done a lot of the last couple of days, to be honest. But we've had fun. We watched Wallace and Gromit. We went to watch Die Hard, but we got sidetracked with Wallace and Gromit. We watched Doctor Who. We worked on my game. We watched some videos on YouTube. We watched some streamy people. Yeah, we've had quite a nice, relaxing time. I think the saddest bit is, you may recall, obviously I've been off work since the 6th of December. That's so September then. How do I go back to work next Thursday? How is it already time to go back to work? I need to retire, dudes. I really do. And to be able to afford to retire at that, rather than just retire and then wither away because I'm broke. But I need to retire. I saw that. Do you suddenly become so long? I've been playing Path of Exile 2 recently. I like Path of Exile 2. A really good point was made by someone last night, which is that it's in early access. It's too easy to forget it's in early access because of the state that it's in. It is in such a really good state that it feels like a release game. Yes, there are features missing, so you can't play all the classes, you can't do this, some of the stuff isn't there, but for all the stuff that is there, is it perfect? No, but since when's anything perfect? But it is very, very playable. So I have 3 classes kind of on the go. I have a witch, I have a sorceress, and I have a monk. Now, normally I don't do well with non-pet classes, to be honest. I like having a pet to accompany me on my journey. That, and it's kind of a, for want of a better word, it's a free dot of damage over time on your mob. Path of Exile 2 has come up with a very interesting manner of achieving a lot of things. Now, in Path of Exile 1, I would say they've made a considerable effort now to make it easier for new people. I would say to an extent, I don't think they've hit the mark that well. I think in some ways it's more complicated. Because previously, when you levelled, your gems that you had socketed onto things started levelling, and then once they levelled, they obviously capped at your level, but you could go about your life and these gems would level up. Now you need to find skill gems, which until the last couple of levels on my monk has been generally not happening. Skill gems do seem quite rare, especially at the beginning. And now there aren't just skill gems, there's support gems. Now we had skill and support gems before, but you had sockets and you put them in a socket and you kind of went, right, so I don't know, I want this skill and I can make it better by adding, you know, a thing that procs lightning with it or something, right? Now you have a skill gem and a support gem, and you put the support gem on the skill gem, which is great because they don't go on the actual equipment anymore. And previously certain skills had certain colours and you could only put them in a socket of a certain colour. So obviously you know, if you might get a great piece of equipment, but it might have all the wrong colour sockets or not enough sockets, and getting more sockets was harder than it sounded and generally slightly annoying. Under the new regime, we now have runes that go on the equipment and the sockets just kind of go on you. Well, whatever. But as I said, the gems are very infrequent, but what it does mean is you can get up to a higher level but have very low skill levels, and because they're not dropping, and this really does hamper things, because you can't. But also previously, yes, some skill gems needed stat requirements, so to use a gem it might say you need, I don't know, 15 int or something. That's fine. But now you have that, but you also potentially have a spirit cost. But spirit is not a stat you can put points into. So you're kind of at the mercy of the game to be generous. Now, there are some bosses that drop some things that grant you some points in that direction, but not many, especially, once again, earlier on. So, you know, you start out with a scepter. in terms of the witch. For God's sake. Which grants you your pets. It comes with any equipment with skills on like that are effectively free. But you also can't upgrade them. You can put support gems on them, but you can't upgrade the level of the pet or the level of the skill. Oh, for goodness sake. Bashing everything. Just lie down. Get your ass in so it's not in my way. And so at least when you change equipment you don't lose your skills, but at the same time you can still lose the stat for the skill. But because it's not on the equipment, and the equipment normally would go red, for example, you just suddenly notice that your skill is missing off your bar, and you have to work out why it's missing off your bar. It doesn't really tell you, and this is where I think they've missed a little bit for the newbies, because the skill gems are basically random drops, so in a lot of places, in a lot of occasions are random drops, as a result of which it's not like you can go off and do this quest. I mean, there are some quests that give you skill points, there are sometimes, but as a whole, because the random drops, and here comes the yawning, you can't necessarily target it, because you need to get 3 zones over, and to get 3 zones over you needed to do Alexa, lights off. What was that light on? Creepy. So the whole rune system, I think, kind of works a little like the crafting system used to, in that you could add stats by picking from the recipes that you knew, but I haven't got very fast in some respects, so I don't have a hideout, I don't have all the tables and crafting things. Oh, here we go. Time to turn on the yawn message, clearly. So why is it then that in a way progression feels really slow? Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Slower progression is an okay thing. What is slightly surprising is sometimes, I mean, for example, I've got boots of 15% movement speed. Doesn't feel any faster. In fact, doesn't feel any faster at all. Now, 15% is not a lot, but it is a sixth. You'd expect to feel it, at least in some situations. No. I also find that my character can be standing in a crowd of mobs, and I'm hitting attack, and it does nothing. It just stands there kind of blinking at me, being wailed on. Because where I clicked was maybe a pixel in between some mobs, so it didn't do anything. From that point of view, it is slightly annoying. And the skills are obviously different. And some of the skills work really, really well together. Some of the support gems, you can move the support gems between the things, like you could in PoE 1. So, you can put, that adds fire damage kind of thing to a number of skills. But once again, it is limited. And that's not a bad thing. Really isn't. But last night, I was trying to kill some stupid mob in Act 2. Turns out she's the one who gives you the Ascendancy quest thing that I haven't done yet. And last night, she was wiping the floor with me. And I mean proper wiping the floor with me. She's kind of odd because basically you get set this quest to go and, you know, so-and-so's been held against her will, go and free her. So you go and free her, and frankly, she's moody. She is so moody that I'm not surprised they tied her up. Well, actually, I think they impaled her on a spike and then tied her down, but so she couldn't get up, you know, wiggle her way off it. And I can see why. I really can. This woman is your worst nightmare. She, you know, you'd think she'd be grateful for being freed. No, not at all. Not in the slightest. Oh my goodness, no. No. She's out to kill you like you're the one who did it. Okay? Fine. And she disappears and hides and basically leaves a stink cloud behind her. Which again, whatever. But you've got to dodge the stink cloud because there isn't a poison resist. There is only cold, lightning and fire. Now technically there is chaos, but that's rarer than hen's teeth. There's also bleeding, and so to get to Act 2 you have to combat a lot of mobs who cause bleeding, and you get 0 resistance to bleeding. So with that in mind, it does make these things quite hard because, you know, you've got to fight something where you almost stand no chance. And as we all know, a lot of games depend on the random number generator, and sometimes things work in your favour and sometimes they don't. But oddly this morning I logged into, you know, PMS lady to try and work out how I was going to work around her, and so I thought I'd do the fight again and then I'd sit and think about, while it was fresh in my mind, exactly what I needed to do to sort it. So I killed her first time and barely used any of my potions and was left sitting there going, how did that happen? But it did, so I'm pleased because I don't have to do that again in a hurry. I can choose to go and fight her again, but I won't be doing it in a hurry. But sometimes this is how it goes. Sometimes you have a mob and the random generator is not in your favour. And sometimes you have a mob and it is. And there was a ring that dropped for the guy I was watching last night. And it looks spectacular. It absolutely looks utterly spectacular. And I want one, I really do, but I also recognise there's very little chance I'll get one. So, but it really turns his character into a mass slaughtering kind of game where he presses a button and most of the screen dies. You know, I could do with some of that on occasions. A lot of the, because skills are either AoE or one-on-one, you do end up with issues where, you know, to kill a, you know, if you've got the AoE going stuff so that you can kill many things at a time, because there's many things are usually smaller, you're getting a bit blasé, you know, bang bang dead, bang bang dead, bang bang dead, because a bang as in hitting it, you know, spell, whatever it is, bang bang dead, bang bang dead. You then come to a boss and it's kind of doing nothing because the boss is made of stronger stuff. You need to do different things for it, but you've then got to have almost like a completely second set of skills that are single target, and so concentrate, you know, mega power onto that. And one of the ways that the monk handles that, which I think is quite fun, is as a monk you get, or you can get, you don't get it by default, but you can get a skill where you get a bell, and then when you hit the bell it does the damage. It turns almost a single target into an area of effect, and it is very and it kind of amplifies it a bit. And this is really, really good against boss mobs. They don't tend to do well with that, which is a good thing. How do I do this every time? How is it that every time I start streaming I start yawning? Anyway, so been working hard on my PoE characters. Kind of liking my monk at the moment. To be honest, I wasn't having much success with the minion build, but that's because I need the supporting skills and I just don't have them. One of the slightly annoying things is that the supporting skills are not... In PoE 1 there were definitely a lot more of them, I think. There were a lot more gems and supporting gems, and for example, if you had 4 things linked together, you could put 2 base gems and 2 support gems and have the same support gems for both the base gems. Possibly not the best use of it, but maybe early on that's all you've got. Can't do that in Path of Exile 2, and moreover, if you want an increased area of effect, well, you can only have it on your one slot at a time, at any given time. Now, moving things around is also a thing. So sometimes you need to change the support gems for a boss mob so that you get a better outcome. And then of course remember how to put them back. But yeah, I've got to the point where, as I say, I've got to do my ascendancy, which I'm kind of avoiding at the moment because I imagine a lot of death and swearing in doing that. Can't imagine it's an easy thing to do. Even in PoE 1, I usually did it by blagging it. I had no idea what I was doing. I just kept... Because you went into a building and you had to solve like a bunch of puzzles. And basically I would run around until it seemed to think that it took pity on me. And it kind of went, yeah, you've done this bit, oh, screw it, I'll do. And would let me. I didn't follow the logic of how I was supposed to work out what I was supposed to do. I just blindly ran around until it kind of thought I was done. So I have a horrible feeling PoE 2 is not going to be so forgiving in that respect. So I haven't even looked yet. It's funny because I was thinking just before I started streaming how cold it was in here. Because, you know, normally I get warm and I'm wondering how it's, you know, this warm and 18 degrees. Well, my hands were frozen solid before and they're perfectly nice now. So that's worked out well for me today. Hey, Nautical. No, is the short answer. It is getting water in. It is able to pump water out, but it still says inlet stroke drainage issue. So I don't know what its issue is, because clearly it has water and it can get rid of it. So, but I washed everything by hand in the end, and then cooked dinner yesterday. So had my Christmas dinner yesterday, got leftovers for today, and otherwise it's, you know, and I am basically ignoring my dishwasher. Because it's a pile of poo. But I can definitely prove that it's working, because if I boil a kettle, pour it in the bottom of the dishwasher and hit go, you hear it emptying and peeing down the drain, so that works. And if you let it sit there going beep, 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 it keeps trying to pump water in and drain it away. And, well, water comes in because things get wet. So, I checked the little spray things to see if they were working, and, well, they seem to work. And kind of out of ideas, really. So I guess I'm going to have to call a man at some extortionate fee for him to go poke. Oh, look, it works now. I'm sure it is something that simple. A bit like my car, which I also haven't sorted. So my car doesn't have an MOT on it anymore because that ran out just before Christmas. My tax disc runs out come the end of the month. And obviously I can't get one with... well, the YouTube videos are for when it doesn't drain, or from when it doesn't, when there's no water going in. Well, I'm getting water and it's also coming out, so... no, in short. It did help me check a little that water was coming in. It did help me check that water was going out. But unfortunately, I'm not going to say it's an old Miele system, but it's a probably 2007 Miele dishwasher. I have had a man out to it before, but previously it wasn't doing things. There were things it was definitely not doing, and it wouldn't shut up. Whereas now it'll shut up. Because the moment you hit go, it goes nom nom nom, and you hear it pump to check that there's no water in the bottom, and you hear it go pump pump pump. And if there is water in the bottom, you hear it weeing down the drain. And then you hear it squirting in some water. And it just goes beep, 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 beep. And you open it up, and inside the lid, there's this very faded bit of text saying drain inlet, and that's flashing. It's not very helpful. It's a bit like, here's a pile of computer things. It doesn't work. Well, in what way does it not work? Can you be a tiny bit more specific on that? Doctor, there's something wrong with me. Can you describe it? No. It's very much that kind of moment, and you're left sitting there going, I appreciate that you feel there's something wrong, but unless you're going to be able to tell me even a remote hint, how in the name of mercy am I supposed to fix this? So the answer is I've just got to pay a man to come and fix it. I just don't really want to. I've also got to decide whether I want to look at buying a car or not, because I've seen a car that would be alright. I quite like it. I'm not particularly fussy with my cars. They just can't be small. Don't do small, tiny things. So if I tell you my current car's a Mini, I know people go, oh, but that's small. No, it's not. It's the size of an old Escort. Don't be so wet. They're not Mini anymore. It's not an old Mini. So the car I've seen is a newer Mini. It's only about 5 years younger than my Mini, to be honest. But my Mini has not appreciated sitting around. Now, a new Mini also wouldn't appreciate sitting around so much. I've turned into my dad, I really have. My dad used to let his car sit around, and literally nearly every bit of driving he did was taking the bloody car to a dealer to be fixed. He used to take his car to dealers, though I can't afford that. So, and his dealers were Mercedes, of course. Yeah, I'm not paying that sort of money, Christ, no. So yeah, contemplating buying a Mini, and the one I've seen is cheaper than fixing up my old one. So my old one well, my current one. My car needs a new clutch and a flywheel. That's about £2.5 grand. I also don't for sure know what's wrong with it because it doesn't move at the moment. Now, I've got a cunning suspicion it's just the connection of the battery. But I can't find the willpower to go out and look. I really can't. I just can't be bothered. So I haven't bothered for a number of months. I can tell you that the brakes now look rusty, so chances are, you know, when I put it in, if I put it in for an MOT, it's going to need new brakes, it's going to need new this, it's going to need new that. So, current car, because bear in mind the current car's needed a new clutch now for nearly 5 or 6 years. Shows you how much driving I haven't been doing. So, it doesn't slip. Well, occasionally it does, but for the most part, it's still good. So I haven't replaced it, and I've saved myself the money. Because it's probably more than £2.5 grand now. So with that in mind, the fact that the new one's about £2.5 grand, it would be cheaper to buy a new car. But then I've got to get rid of the old one, and I don't know quite how I'd do that, because it's a private sale, not, you know, I can't say, well, here's, you know, give me 50 quid off for the old one. The engine on Paxo, I call my car Paxo, the engine on Paxo, I think it's done 54,000 miles on it. It's diesel, it's only just worn in. So, it should, you know, from that point of view, it's a perfectly good little car. It just hasn't enjoyed sitting around. It's always had a couple of quirks, to be honest. It used to during, well, I'll say during the summer it was most obvious, but you'd be driving along and you'd drive not very far and the fan would stick on. The cooling fan for the engine would stick on and there was no reason for it. You give it a rev and you'd go back to normal, but you've got to rev it to do it, you know. So, Paxo's always had some interesting points to him. So a new car could be a thing. It's probably why Paxo won't start, because I mentioned the concept of getting a ring replacement. So yeah, Howie, I've just realised I'm not hearing the speech. Oh, it's eaten all my sounds, by the looks of it. Hey, Tench. Hang on, let me restart this then. Never a fucking test shit button when you want one. Can someone say something so that I can see if this is now doing what it should? Because I can't find a fucking test button. Yeah, that didn't work. I don't see why not. It says mail wasn't, GB News mail was not found. Normally I have it reading to me, so I know that you've typed things, and it's not, and I can't even. Default mail. Okay. It is. Well, it was when it was working. Problem is I can't read shit. Speech engines. Oh, looks. There we go. What's it mean? Problem is like everything. Interesting. This was working and now it's not, but it doesn't say. Oh, hang on. Unable to add cloud TTS. Now to try and find where the phone photo is. I remember this being so difficult last time. It's one of those things is that once you get it working you don't touch it, and I haven't, and suddenly now it's not doing something. Well, that didn't work very well. Seems that for some reason it's eaten my Google Cloud settings. But look at if I remember how I did that. Speech engine Google Cloud. Everything's now in the way because of course it's in front of my keyboard. Did this before and it kind of like, I mean, for example, let me show you this, hang on. Fuck's sake, 58 windows later. When I hit browser, I meant you to actually like show my browser. And I can't tell why it's not showing you things. Hang on. So, right, let me click on this, click on this, click on that. You should now see, isn't that the world's most useful screen? A completely white screen, enter billing on Google Cloud Console. Well, how about you actually tell me where the hell that is? Yeah. Actions. Change billing, no. View. Because it doesn't actually cost you money. Yeah. But there's supposed to be a thing you download that... Well, let's see if my thing now works. Hang on. Yeah, now it works. Right. For some reason, I obviously needed to go and poke it. Okay. Now, as I said though, the only annoying thing is there's no frigging test the shit button. There doesn't seem to be a test it option, which just strikes me as really stupid. There it goes. Yay! I've got voices in my ear again. Huzzah! Let's get back to what we were doing then. So, voices in my ear. So I apologise if I missed a few things earlier. So I have a setup that reads your messages to me, and it only reads them to me. You don't get to hear them said to me because, well, you don't need to because you can see them yourselves. I mean, they're on the screen and in, for you and obviously in chat. But for those who maybe watch it later in YouTube world or whatever, they can't see that the Twitch chat, so hence it's on screen. But I have it, so it reads it out to me, and this is something that I did with a friend of mine called Oxford, and because he's been working on a Beetle, and he wanted something so that he could work on his car and hear what people were saying without actually having to crawl out from, in the darkest pit of his car up to his armpit in paint scrapers or whatever. He could hear it. And so, but in similar vein, if I'm sitting watching my bobbins, because obviously, that's a thing, I wanted to be able to hear that you'd said something to me and not constantly have to keep looking at it and trying to read it and all the rest of it. So I have the same setup so that I can, have an element of concentrate on this and still have a conversation with you. Hence, it's quite a good thing. And it's really not that hard to set up. So the only thing you do have to set up is so that it doesn't broadcast it to OBS or whatever you use to stream. So you have to tell OBS not to use kind of like all inputs, to use maybe only the mic input. And for example, you hear music. I do not. I don't hear that music. That music only plays to a sound device that doesn't actually exist, but that OBS can pick it up and send it to you. But obviously this means that, because I didn't really want there to be a form of echo, right? I didn't want for you to type it and then for you to hear it and see it, and it wouldn't be too bad. To be honest, it could be worse. But thank you for dribbling on my pillow there, mug. That's really helpful. It is something I wanted, so because I noticed, because often it is quite quiet here, and I don't have a lot of chatters going on. It is easy for me not to notice that someone's come along and said hello or said something. I can be minding my own business and looking at my bobbins and, oh look, someone said something, which is how I noticed that you guys had said something. And then my brain went, because obviously I looked up and saw Nautica asking about my dishwasher, and I went about answering it, and then my brain went, why didn't I know that was there? Because normally I don't even have to look, because it tells me who says it and what they've said. The only thing it doesn't handle too well are emoticons. So if you don't have it, it tends to skip those, kind of obviously. But, I do like my little setup so that, for example, I can play me music that you can't hear. You have music that I can't hear. So I can arguably watch a film and obviously I'm not going to be watching it because I'll be looking at my pillow, but I can arguably, listen to an audio book, or often I'm listening to, Amazon all 80s kind of music because I kind of like 80s shit. well, I kind of like most stuff, to be honest, but 80s stuff is usually a good bet for some kind of tapping along jolly music. And you can't hear it. So I then don't get copyright strikes for playing, potentially copyrighted music, although I thought copyright was only valid for 25 years, so or something stupid, or is copyright for life and something else is only 25 years. Anyway, but it means I can listen to one thing, you can listen to something completely different, we can all meet in the middle, but it also means I can have it read to me what you guys have said. Now, occasionally it does make a bit of a munge of some of the things that are said, and that it doesn't read them properly, names especially, but then, hey, I'm not necessarily any better at that. But occasionally it reads things out funny, especially typos. But it does a pretty good impression, to be honest. And I do like it. So I use a thing called SpeakerBot. It's quite easy to set up. You set it up to pick up things. I've told it to ignore anything that I say, so it doesn't read out to me the 3 minutes of ads and stuff and any of my responses, because, well, I know, because I typed it. I don't need to be told that. It just works really well. I've obviously got another bot thing that does like the 3 minute thing and all the rest of it, and that one is StreamerBot. So I use both of those, and you can kind of do a bit of both. You can have like I can set up commands, and I could have it, pay 500 pins or whatever, and send text to screen things. But what I can't do is have text to screen things that you can hear and normal things that only I can hear, because it's only one program and it only sends output to one thing. So from that point of view, slightly annoying. And I don't think you can run multiple copies of it. So but yeah, I don't have to listen to the music you've got. You don't have to listen to what I've got, although I've got nothing at the moment. But as far as you know, I have nothing all the time. You don't know when I'm listening to Doctor Who or... I could watch Die Hard and you'd never know, it's... Because, well, that is a Christmas movie and I haven't watched it yet. I was about to, as I was saying, I was about to watch it, and then I got sidetracked into Wallace and Gromit. Because I hadn't realised there was a new Wallace and Gromit for Christmas, so I got told, but there's a new Wallace and Gromit, why aren't you watching that? Okay. So, literally I'd watched 3 minutes of Die Hard, and then it was like, okay, I'll go and watch Wallace and Gromit then. Yeah. I worked for Arden once. I have to say, I did enjoy it. They are a great bunch of people. I was looking through on LinkedIn to see who was still there. Most of the people that were there when I was there, because it was 20 years ago, aren't there now. But, yeah. I was having a look through the credits and it made me think, I wonder who works there now, so I went and had a bit of a look. So yes, hopefully you all had a good Christmas though, and got many good things. The only disadvantage of not having family is don't tend to get too many presents for Christmas. But to be honest, I've got a house full of crap. I don't need anything particular. And I've always said this, once you're an adult, buying stuff for people, or buying stuff for any adult is generally difficult. because it usually falls into one or two categories. Either it's as rare as hen's teeth, and that pin's too bent, I can't be bothered to straighten it anymore. Or it's stupidly expensive and probably outside the range of a standard present scenario. Even if you love them dearly, you know, there are still limits generally to how much you're going to spend on them for Christmas or their birthday. And so, you know, it's the... Well, I could buy them a mug, but they've got, you know, 40,000 mugs already. I could get them socks. Well, yeah, everyone's got socks. You know, you either end up kind of buying naff presents, or you end up with stuff they don't really want and taking a risk that they'll like it. Making things and knowing full well that chances are that it will get put in a cupboard and not used, and you know, and all those kind of things. So I'm very lucky. I have had a present. Well, I've had a couple of presents this year. I got an Amazon voucher. Hurrah! They're always good. And I got a calendar and a little placard thing, which clearly they know me very, very well. It'll be shiny, so I will warn you. But it says, "Don't knock, they will bark, and I will yell." Incredibly true in this household, as you well know, from the "shut up," you know, that goes on. And that's without the knocking, so yeah. So yes, I got... So that's good. We had some fun when I discovered on the 23rd that I was supposed to be paid, and it didn't happen. Didn't notice till later in the evening, and obviously Christmas Eve being Christmas Eve, lots of people have got the time off, you know, to travel to family or to just start cooking the sprouts or whatever. And I was a bit worried that I wouldn't get paid before Christmas. That's nice of him. I mean, you know, I never have a problem with something like that, because they bought you something that, while you didn't need it, it's a nice thought, because it now means that when they're there, they can, you know, and you obviously let him use your computer. So from that point of view, you know, he can then use it without too much hassle. So, you know, yeah, it's kind of a present for him. But well, that's always a good thing. I have a Rocat keyboard that, frankly, does more colours than is humanly necessary, and it's a gaming keyboard. I don't need it to be a gaming keyboard, really, but I've got a gaming keyboard, and it's a 10-less keyboard, so it doesn't have the numpad on the right hand side. It also means it doesn't have things like a numlock key, which can be problematic because a lot of games use those keys, which kind of is a bit ironic when you think about it. It's a gaming keyboard, and yet, for example, a lot of games will then map things like auto run to numlock. I don't have one, so I can't. But one thing that I have found slightly annoying about a lot of games is, and I won't say it's a Unity issue, but I've noticed it in Unity because I work with Unity as well, is that... How do I explain this? It knows what language your keyboard is. So it knows that whether you've got like a QWERTZ keyboard rather than a QWERTY keyboard. So it doesn't have, you know, TY on the end, it has TZ because you're German. Or in my case, being British, it's very similar to a US keyboard, but not. And for those who have a British keyboard and who've had to use an American keyboard, they know that there are 3 key differences. Well, 4. 1. Shift and 2 on a UK keyboard gives you double quotes. Shift and 3 gives you a pound sign. Not a hash shit, an actual pound sign that looks a bit like a funny E, right? But it's not the Euro E, but it's kind of more like a cross between a treble clef and an E, right? And next to your left hand shift key is your backslash. On an American keyboard, oh, and for those who are now curious as to where the hash sign is, because normally it's shift 3 for Americans, it's next to the return key, right? So this is a normal layout for UK keyboards, and, well, once you're used to it, you're used to it. I can adjust to an American keyboard, but I don't want to, because I'm British, and there's a British keyboard with pound signs on it. Why would I not? Now, there is a game which I love with all my heart, and it says backtick, for those who do not know what backticks look like. On the UK keyboard, it's just below the escape key, is some function. No, it's not. But more to the point, when I hit the key and say, you know, set it to be this key, so maybe it thinks it's someone else, it sets it to backtick, but it doesn't do it. Fucking annoying. So yes, it is a problem when you've got British keyboards, because in the games they usually show you what would be on the American keyboard for that key. So if you press shift 2, it gives you an @ sign, not the quotes. Well, the @ sign's the other side of the keyboard, so which is it, right? And basically, games seem to assume you have an American keyboard. No. And with that in mind, obviously that can become very frustrating when you're trying to do things and it knows that it's a... Why are you crossed? This doesn't feel right. Did I miss doing something here? Hang on. I got a feeling you should be there, like that. There we go. No. How are you? You are not right somehow. Stop running away! Stay on the frigging pillow. That's a bit shit. There. I need to pull out U4 to find out what the hell is going on with this. So, you definitely got done. You are definitely done. So you are fine. The question is, what is wrong with you? I'm going to assume I need to do that. But you're all so long. Why is it? I've got some of these bobbins, they just constantly seem to unwind. And I don't quite know why. Because you don't catch them doing it. Sometimes you catch them doing it. And it's because you gently pull on it, and as it pulls, it just kind of... And that's fine, I get that. But that's definitely too many. That's better. Let's go with that one. So. So yeah, one of the things that I found naughty out with this keyboard... Oh, for God's sake, Amy. This is the kind of time when I really could take a bolt gun to her head. Will you just sit still? She gets up like someone shot her in the butt with a cap. Because she'll literally kind of like absolutely sparko And then literally she leaps in the air. And now she's back again. Just go to sleep, little one. For goodness sake. But yeah, the one thing I found Naughty Cat with my keyboard was that because it is really sensitive, so there are varying degrees of sensitivity of keyboard, whether they're manual or not, or I can't remember what the non-manual one, non-mechanical ones are called. Anyway, the attenuation of the keys on this keyboard is really high, so that you only have to push it like the key a millimetre and it's counted, because it's for gaming. The idea is that, you know, rather than wait until you've got to the bottom, it triggers higher up the push, right? Which means then that, well, it saved you nanoseconds or whatever, right? Anyway, I found the speed of my typing so much faster on this thing. It was almost like I only had to think it and it had come out on the keyboard. Which is why I got a little annoyed when his first ship here, because he constantly comes and goes underneath the table, pulled the cable of the keyboard leapt off the back of the keyboard thing, because, well, it's just kind of a sheet of plastic on a kind of, I would say a rail, but it's not even a rail, it's not that clever. It's just literally, there's a wheel that it kind of runs along, and it can tip, and you have to constantly tighten it because it's a bit shit. It's not cheap. It wasn't cheap. It wasn't expensive, but it wasn't cheap. But it, you know, he pulled the keyboard straight off the back. It landed on the metal framing of the. Just stop it, Amy. Come here. Lie down. It bust one of the keys, and I thought that it just pinged off because, you know, it's got replaceable keys and all that. No, he actually broke it. So I did some very careful super gluing, because I am a master of careful super gluing. Well, as you know, I can only use pin heads to deposit the merest fragment of super glue, and so I did that, and knowing that full well that if I stuffed it up, my keyboard would be useless, but then it was my Alt key. It couldn't be a key that I didn't really need. So something that we have on British keyboards that, again, not something you have on too many others, is you have an Alt-GR key. Now this key's 99% purpose is to put graves on I's and E's and things, so that we can do like fiance instead of with an I, like, you know, normal people do. You can do it correctly, because we British love to be syntactically correct. It's not a key I generally use except for when dicking about. So, you know, did he break that one? No. Is it the function key that allows me to turn lights on and off? No. Was it maybe the Windows key that I could actually live without? No. The Alt key. The only Alt key, because obviously the other one's an Alt-GR key. So, fortunately, my surgery went well, and I rescued my keyboard. But I have bought a spare. I need to point out these things are nearly £200. I have bought a spare for when it finally does give in, because, yeah, that's a thing. For when he breaks it properly. Where am I? Why do I seem to have way too many bobbins? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, that doesn't fit in there. How does that not work out? How have I eaten one? Did I fling it around the room in a fit of rage and not notice? make it fit in here, but... Here. And you can go over here. And I need you. And now I need you. And you. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't do a lot of streaming over the Christmas couple of days. I got caught up with dishwashers and dinners and watching telly and stuff. So only like you're all back from ads. No, that's really nice of them, Naughty Cat. Christmas presents don't have to be extravagantly complicated things. Sometimes the nicest presents are the really simple ones because it's something you actually want or something you actually would use. And so, yes, that's really nice of them. You know, I can't draw for toffee, but at the same time, I've got square paper for drawing, weaving charts. I can use square paper for mapping out lace making. I can use square paper for all sorts of things. So I've got a pile of square paper. But as you say, sometimes I was thinking about your keyboard. Sometimes you don't realise you need something until you've got a new one. You don't realise how bad the old one was until you've got a new one. My glasses would be the same. If I went and got a new pair of glasses and could finally see, I'd probably realise how bad these truly are. Now, these are not hugely bad in terms of prescription. They need a slight adjustment for the reading prescription, but nothing huge. The biggest problem with them is the anti-reflective coating that has worn off. And I'm not alone in this. I was talking to my neighbour about it, and she said that her husband gets exactly the same, in that they don't have to be that old, but it's just worn away. And because it wears away, I don't suppose you can see it. But if I do this, you might be able to see in the reflection. You can see that it's knackered. And what it means is that, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4. Was that an ad this time round? Yes, it was. It means that it messes with your vision. It's like looking through privacy glass, in that it distorts the light coming through. So it means that while you can see it, it's not clear anymore. And so I do suffer from... That's part of the reason why when I say I can't see the pins, I can see that there are pin marks, but I can't see them clearly enough, at that moment. I mean, I can see all these dots quite clearly, but when they're at this sort of range and there are threads in the way and my glasses are just so, no, I can't. And I almost have to kind of shake my head slightly. I also find working on my laptop is at a very awkward situation. As I mentioned, I need to change the reading prescription is changing, and it needs to go up just a fraction. But what it does mean is that due to the messing of the anti-reflective coating, and sometimes the sweet spot in a particular vision point, because I have varifocals, I have to wiggle my head to be able to read the screen. I can see that there are letters, and I can see enough of them that technically I can read them, but my brain won't read them because they're not right, because it's autistic. And so I have to shake my head to read the screen and actually read, maybe is that an 8 or a B or... yeah. Because obviously some fonts are worse than others for that. But, yeah. So I really ought to get a new pair of glasses. But I just don't fancy it because they're freaking expensive. A pair of glasses for me is about £1,000, and it's £1,000 on a pair of glasses that I don't need that badly. I mean, I do, but I kind of don't. But I bet if I did get a new pair of glasses, I'd be sitting there going, wow, because I could see everything. So, with that in mind, I probably do need a new pair of glasses. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. You're all jumbled. I'm not even going to pretend that you're not jumbled. So yes. People, I really can't believe this is only triangle number 12. Out of 72. Which in some ways doesn't make sense. But I think it's because of the way my brain thinks about it. For me, time calculations make my brain fart. No, I don't. I have an anti-opticians problem as well. It's not the person, usually. Not specifically, anyway. But for me, it's the... Is that better or worse? I don't know, love. You just whipped your hand in front of my face, so I blinked. So when you said the better option did not get registered, you need to go plonk, think about it, take away, think about it. Which one is now better or worse? Do not be going better, worse. What? My brain had kind of wandered onto cat videos or something, you know. I also have the problem, I've mentioned to you guys a few times, the phone cable scenario. So if there is a wobbly phone, a curly phone cable, I now can't decide whether to see it or not. There are a number of opticians' tests where mentally I can change the result. So there's one where you're looking kind of like binoculars into a black hole, and they show lights, and they'll say to you, you know, where is the white light on the right? And you're supposed to, you know, obviously they're supposed to be in the middle, right? Well, I can move that white light with my brain as to wherever you want it to be. So I don't know, where's it supposed to be? And I'll tell you where, if I can put it there or not. Or where's it default to? Well, wherever I'm thinking about. And if I don't think about it, I almost can't see it. So, you know, it's a shit test for me. And so I don't like the ones that have got these newfangled electronic, almost like mega pair of glasses where all of the gubbins and the slotty things to, you know, up and down the values are all built inside. I don't get on with those because my brain just freaks out. Because although you don't get the hand kind of going better, worse, you've got this big thing on your face going clunk, bang, whir. And my brain just kind of goes, oh, and I blink every time and so I miss it. And of course, they can't slow those down. It's kind of got one speed and it's kind of like, better or worse? What? I don't know. I didn't see either of those options. Can you try again? And then to the point that the one last time I got done with one of those, I bought a pair of glasses and I said to them, that prescription doesn't sound right. And they went, no, we tested it. It's what's come out of the machine. It must be right. You went through all of the tests. And yeah. So it was one of those, you know, wait around for a while. We'll grind them out for you. So I did. I got presented with the glasses. I put them on my face, looked down the length of the shop and went, I can't even read the sign at the end of the shop. And it was one of those big, like, for sale kind of things. You know, the ones that are sort of like 2 foot high. Couldn't read it. And she went, oh, it'll take time to get to adjust you on your glasses. I went, I've never taken this long to adjust to a pair of glasses. No. Anyway, they made me wear them for a week. I couldn't see crap. I couldn't read road signs from, you know, if I was at a crossroads, I couldn't read the name of the roads. I couldn't read road signs. In the end, I went back and went, I still can't see. And they went, oh. And so they had to do the tests all over again. And they did it without the fancy gubbins electronic doodad. Oh, look, got the prescription that I was expecting. And hey, then they finished building those glasses. I could see. Funny that. Yeah. Opticians and I have a love-hate relationship. If nothing else, because like so many other companies, this pair of glasses, much as they are not particularly attractive or, you know, amazing glasses, these glasses, varifocals, cost me, sit down, £60. From one of those, you know, buy cheap online companies. who of course have been sold out and bought by someone else, and they've lost all my details. Thanks for that. But if I go to an optician's, even if I buy the cheapest frames in the building, and they will be mingingly ugly, but if I bought the cheapest frames in their possession, and I have a similar problem. Due to being incredibly short-sighted, and I do mean, if this was my eyeball, originally I couldn't see this far away. Now I can see just beyond, which is a blessing. And, I don't pretend that it's not. But due to being incredibly short-sighted, I have always read, as if I'm not wearing glasses. So I will hold the book really close to my face. And like you said, I want to be able to hold things kind of... Sorry, I'm trying to use this as a stick. Yeah. About... If this was the end of my nose, I would read a book about here. So we're really talking quite close. I want to be able to read a book at my default preferred reading distance. Not what you think is the right reading distance for me. I want to read it where I want to read it, where it's comfortable, where I'm used to it. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Why is... I did that wrong somehow. Anyway, and so I often end up with a fight because they kind of go, right, can you read this? And I shove it on the end of my face kind of thing. And they go, no, it's your usual reading distance. No, love, this is my usual reading distance. Oh, you can't read like that. Well, I do. And I have done for 50 odd years. So can you bite me and just do as you're told? You told me to put it where I read it. This is where I read it. Stop telling me that this is not where I should be reading from and I should, put it in my lap. And yeah, bully for you, love. Absolutely bully for you. But that is not where I default read my book, or whatever it is that I'm reading in my lap, whether it's the back of a cooking packet or whatever, right? Just stop pretending that you know better than me where I read my book, because you're wrong. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is not right somehow. So can you not? Can you just not? And so I do understand that one entirely, Naughty Cat, because, as you say, they have this kind of, oh, well, you must do this. No. What makes you think I do that? In what universe have I ever said that I do that? I do not do that. That is not a me thing. I have never done that. I don't read like that. I read with my book there. And how do you explain to people that I need to be able to focus kind of, well, you think, if I lean forward, if this is my reading distance, I need to be able to focus here and here and over here and over here. I need to be able to focus correctly on all of those points at whichever time I feel the need, as well as drive. And so can you just not pretend that you know me better than that? Because, love, I've never met you before. And so can you not pretend that you know me? Because you don't. I realise I always have the same argument with doctors, actually. And I remember raising this when I went into hospital with leukemia. They take your blood pressure and your, blood counts and all the rest of it and go, oh, that's perfectly normal. But is it? You only ever take my blood pressure and blood counts when there's a reason to. I.e., I've come in and I'm ill. Therefore, this is not, you never wait till I'm having a real cracking healthy day and do it. You do it every time I'm ill. So the only judgment you've got is when I am ill. How do you know that's normal for me? You know, you have no proof of what is normal for me. And I was, of course, proved right. No surprise there. When towards the end of my leukemia, and I was I was well, and I was just there filling up a hospital bed. All my blood pressure readings and all my blood counts were completely different. And I went, so when I came in and I was sick as a parrot, and you told me all my things were normal, they weren't normal for me now, were they? No, you had a point. But because they fell into your normal range, you didn't see a problem, even though I do. I do see a problem because I know that I'm not well, you know. Yeah, actually having leukemia was a bit of a shock. I didn't think I was that ill. In essence, I'd gone to someone's birthday party in Wales, and they'd been out on the piss. We'd all been out on the piss. I don't generally drink, but I can if I want. You know, there's nothing stopping me, so I did. And much alcohol was consumed, to be fair. But pretty much everyone and their dog had a cold. So not too surprisingly, after spending, you know, well, pretty much 20 hours in a room locked in a room with them all drinking and coughing and sneezing, those of us who didn't have the cold picked up the cold. So we drove home and you know, it wasn't too bad. A couple of days later, we're all now sick as parrots. And I was no more sick than anybody else, really wasn't. To start with. I'd had glandular fever many years before, and every so often the glands on my neck swell up, because that's what glands do. And so, you know, I knew something, you know, I knew I had germs, but then so did everybody else. And then suddenly I got to a point where I couldn't keep water down anymore. Every time I drank it, I honked it back up again. And I realised that this is far from ideal, but I kept an eye on it, and my pee got darker, and I kept honking up water. I wasn't eating either. Now, obviously, too much of this is not good for you. You get dehydrated, so I went to the doctor because, well, you know, pee was getting darker, and I was still puking out water, and my glands on my neck were still up, and they sent me off for a blood test, funny enough, once again, for glandular fever. And while I was there, because I was thirsty, I asked the nurse, is there any chance I can have a glass of water? And she kind of looked at me a bit funny and gave me a glass of water. 2 minutes later, she's taking a load of stuff across to the machine to get done, and comes across me sitting by the side of the path, puking up in the drain because, of course, I drank some water. She offered to find me a bed, and I was like, no, I'll be fine, it'll be fine. Anyway, we wended off, we went to Tesco's, and I really ran out of energy, so I sat down in the aisle in Tesco and all of that. Anyway, got home, watched some telly, tried to drink some water, puked it back up, but, you know, I was trying to drink it, I was trying to do the right thing. Anyway, at 6 o'clock, the phone rang. Where the hell have you been? Well, I've been sitting here, actually. Why? We've been trying to get hold of you all day. Well, this is the number you have for me, and the phone has not rung once, so I dispute that, but okay, what's the problem? All the hospital's now closed, you need to go to this other one. Okay. So, off I went to Watford. Got there. Hi, apparently you're expecting me. Oh, good, yes, we need to do this. Can you pee in that? Well, I haven't drunk anything for about 4 days. I can give you like 3 drips if you want. There you go. You know, 3 drips in the bottom of you almost needed a microscope to find it. Anyway, they came back a bit later. We need you to pee. I can't pee. I have no pee. I haven't drank anything to pee. How long have you been yellow? What? And I was, well, frankly, that colour yellow. And because you're on the inside, you don't notice. I can't see the colour of my eyes. I can't see that they've gone banana yellow. I could see once they pointed it out, and I could put my hand next to someone else, I could see I was really yellow. But because, well, it happens gradually, and it's not like you kind of go boop and you're like green or something. It is only a yellow hue up to your skin anyway. So I don't know. You'll have to tell me. You're the ones that've been looking at me. I can't tell. Anyway. Anyway, they took me in and pumped me full of, saline and shit to give me some water. Which, to be honest, is all I really expected them to do. At this point, I had no idea. Next morning, having tried to sleep on the hospital bed, but the little angly thing that there's a little metal kind of adjustable headboard on some hospital beds that allows you to adjust it for sitting and getting support. Wouldn't move. And I sleep on my arm, so I had to kind of mangle my arm through this thing, and I looked like some hideous car accident thing. Anyway, after getting next to no sleep, because A, it's a strange place, B, it's a strange bed, C, where the hell is my arm? Ow, I can't move my arm. All of this kind of stuff. We need to take you to the PIU. What? The Programming Investigation Unit. I'm not a computer, I mean, I know I'm a bit sad, but I'm not actually a computer. I mean, I am technically human. Anyway, they took me off, and the best explanation is they apple core your pelvis. They get a device which is exceptionally similar to an apple corer. Twist it into your butt till you feel the pop. Because you do feel the pop. Yes, they can numb your skin and shit, but you still feel the grinding of the bone and the pop. And they took a sample, which was distinctly unpleasant. I've had it done many times now, but it is distinctly unpleasant. And anyway, a little while later, I'm in my room. Trev's arrived. My parents, I think, had arrived at. No, I don't think my parents were there. Anyway, this bloke walks in and goes, "Hi, I'm Dr. I'm sorry, what? I missed all of that because I proceeded to puke on his shoes. Because he told me I had leukemia, and it was kind of like, I'm sorry, what? Where did that come from? And I then spent the next 6 months in hospital, trying not to die of leukemia and being pumped full of drugs that made me puke. And being fed food, if you can call it food, because there's no way that was actual food. Did I not add some when I got to the other end? I think I did. So yeah, it was, but as far as I'd known, all I had was a cold. I had the same cold as everybody else. It was a shit cold. We all hated the cold. And, there were much germs and sniffing and feeling rank to be had. I didn't feel any different. I just got a bit more run down. So, yeah, I had no symptoms. None at all. And that was the bit that no one could work out, was how I had no symptoms. And the simple answer seems to be, while I arguably had leukemia, it had not progressed to a point of a symptom showing, and the cold brought it to the forefront. Because obviously it might have had no more immunity to deal with it. The cold got to play its part. I had a little bit of immunity to fight the cold, and that's all I had. And then it ran out. And so I had no energy, no nothing. And almost, if I hadn't had that cold, it probably would have been a lot worse. So, it would have been further progressed, further down the line. Would have maybe needed more treatment, maybe, a whole host of other things. maybe even to the point of maybe I wouldn't even have survived it, because it was touch and go back then. Because 25 years ago, treatments were very different than they are today. So yeah, it was kind of, I only had a cold, so, but then to be honest, when I had bowel cancer a couple of years ago, the only reason we found out was because I had a skin tag I wanted removing, and it's on my butt, and the doctor said, well, you know, they're really hot on these checks, and because this is on your butt, we should do this, but there's no way in hell, she said, that it's ever going to be true. And so we did the poop on a stick and the blood test, and they were like, oh, we found blood. Well, I've never seen blood from there, you know. Fine. So they did the whole Hubble telescope thing and found a lump. And once again, the lump was pink and normal. I mean, it was a lump, but it was pink and normal looking. And if you ever look, not that I suggest you do, but if you ever find yourself bored and look at these things, because maybe it's potentially happening to you or someone you know, normally the cancerous ones are purpley, or they're angry looking, or they look kind of funky. No, mine look just more like a small kind of speed bump. Yeah. Yeah, it turned out to be, you know, there's various stages, but it was nearly stage 2, and you're like, well, first of all, that has never bled, because there were no blood vessels near the surface, there's, you know, none of that, and you're like, so, once again, we discover I've got cancer because of something completely irrelevant, by chance. So, yeah, I'm sure it's going to kill me one day, but, you know, it's trying hard enough. But mind you, we all thought after the chemo that I had back in 99-2000 that my body would never dare, because it would have to go through all that kind of shit again. But apparently, despite all of that, I still managed to have bowel cancer. And, oddly, back in 99-2000, I used to suffer incredibly from a pain in my stomach. I mean, to the point, I call it a white pain, where my entire vision would go white. I could not see, and it was like staring into a bright light with your eyes shut. It was kind of bright, couldn't see anything, and I couldn't move, really hurt, and I've got a fairly high pain tolerance. It's exactly where the lump was. So I'm not convinced I didn't have it back then. And that maybe the chemo on it back then shrank it, because after all the chemo, it had kind of worn off a bit. For years, it had kind of worn off a bit. So, you know, Dr. House, I know he's fictitious, but there is an element of based on reality. Rather famously once said that if you put anyone through an MRI, you will find something. And I think, to an extent, that's always true. There is always going to be a narrowing of an artery, a slight blockage here, a malformed this. There is always going to be some defects. And the question is are they important? And that is the only true crux of it all is, you know, could you find cancer things in other people? Probably. You know, could we all be walking around with lumps and bumps that we don't know about it? Absolutely. Fiona, my dog, who died in 2020, when I first took her to the vet because she'd come up a bit lame, they said to me, well, the nurse vet thing, she was a vet, I don't like her though, so I'll call her a nurse because it belittles her status. She and I had run-ins with a previous dog, and she'd basically said, well, he's 16 years old, why are you even bothering to try and see what's wrong with him? Because at 16 he's more bouncy than half the dogs I've seen at 6, so how about you take your number and shove it? And she wasn't right. He lived for about another year or so, and to be honest, he probably should have lived a bit longer than that. So, And it was not because he was unhappy. He was not ready when he went. But she said that Fiona had arthritis. And gave me some painkillers and, you know, okay. Did all of that. 2 weeks later, it looked more swollen. It looked angrier. She was still struggling to walk on it. So I went back. And this was under COVID. So we're all out in the car park, standing, you know, 5 metres apart, almost shouting across the car park at each other. And it was a bloke. And I said, you know, I brought her a couple of weeks ago, and this is what they said, because obviously they're out in the car park, they haven't got the notes in front of me. And I went, and she said this, and he went, well, that's not that. He knew, he hadn't even touched my dog at that point. He went, that's not arthritis. And I went, I didn't think so, but, you know, she's a vet. Trying not to say, well, I already hated her, now you've just justified why I hate her even more. Anyway, he took her indoors, did some x-rays, and came back and said he was very sorry. My dog wouldn't live for probably had 2 weeks to live. That the whole of the inside of her stomach and, well, not quite her stomach, but it was swelling into her stomach and her bladder and taking up the space in there. The tumour was wrapped all the way around her pelvis, that there was nothing they could do. They would ask and send the photos off in case there was someone who felt that they could tackle that. But they didn't expect it to be yes, and they were right. No one said they could. So, yeah. Unfortunately, go live for some work we've been working on all summer was due for the 1st of August. And didn't happen due to a slight faux pas. Not by us, I need to point out. And a couple of days later, when they actually went to go live, I was down the vet putting Fiona to sleep because her dad had come. And I'd promised her that once we'd gone live, I would spend time in the garden with her, because obviously COVID, we weren't going places, but that I would spend, you know, work, I'd spend time with her. I would, you know, make up for the fact that I had not been overly attentive the last few weeks. It's not that I wasn't taking care of her, but I, you know, that I would literally sit in the garden and kind of ignore everybody. And yeah, she died. And I felt really bad because I had not let that dog have the best of ends. Well, it wasn't the worst of ends, but she was definitely done. And I had not spent more time with her knowing that that was coming, because I thought I had another week and I needed to try and balance it with work. After all, they pay me. And so I was quite bitter about that, especially then when we got no thanks from anybody for the work that we'd done, despite doing it all from home, out of hours, not paid overtime or anything. We'd made up for all the mistakes that the business had made in judgment, time scales, all of it. We still managed to make it work, and they just didn't care. They just kind of went, oh great, you did it, thanks. They didn't even say thanks. They just kind of went, oh great, have you done it yet, kind of thing. And it's like, yeah. It was a very unpleasant time. And so, yeah, it is important to spend time with the right people when you need to, irrelevant of what else is going on. Oh, for God's sake, dogs. Check if the world is falling apart or something. No, the world is not falling apart. That's a good thing. Oh, Amy. I don't know who's more annoying, actually. Amy or Rory. Rory, because he wants to come up through the 2-inch non-existent gap to the 3-seater kind of gap the other side of me. Or Amy, because she comes next to me and constantly bang, 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 as she tramples the grass to sit down. And it's not getting any flatter, love. It's my couch. Just lie down on it. Rory at least does do the come up, lie down thing. He doesn't do the trample the grass thing. Whereas little Miss here has got ants in her pants, as she's now got up again, because she's going to go outside and see what her bruv's doing. Rory? What were you doing? What were you eating from the garden? I don't want to know the answer to that, do I? Is it brown and smelly like a poo? Because it was a poo. Bet it was. I do feed my dogs, you know. There, mud. Pin. Oh, thanks, Amy. Why do I not remember having this problem with the bobbins dangling off the side of my pillow before? Why do I not remember this? I didn't twist them. I didn't twist them. I didn't twist them, and I spotted it. For I am clever, for I have spotted it. I need to twist them. So come on then, what did some of you do for Christmas then? Tenches in a meeting. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, you can just ask, you know. While primarily I am... So let me explain why I'm streaming this and not overly expecting many of you to be interested. Is the short answer. It's because I suffer from grand designs. I made a couple of bookmarks in lace. Well, as a child, I made like 2 strips, And then, like, 40-something years later, my brain goes, hey, let's do some more. And so I made a couple of bookmarks. And then my brain went, well, I don't really need bookmarks because I use Kindle. What can I make that I would use? And to be honest, lace is less practical. Unlike knitting and crochet and sewing, and if you cross stitch, you can put it as a picture on the wall. You can make a cushion out of it. You can make a bag out of it. You can do all manner of things. You can decorate a box with it. If you knit or crochet, you can make a blanket. You can make a jumper. You can make gloves, hats, scarves. You can do things with it. If you weave, you can make tea towels, you can make blankets, you can make cloth, you can make clothes with it. Lace is decorative, and it is its only function. It is not a practical thing. As a result of not being a practical thing, you don't really make things out of it. You adorn other things with it. And I am not a girly girl. Frankly, I'm sitting in here and I have a man's t-shirt, a man's jumper, man's sweatpants, men's slippers? Yeah, men's slippers. I've got socks, pants and a bra on, but, you know, to be honest, the pants could be a bit ambiguous. So they're not exactly girly thongs, so, you know, let's be reasonable here. I don't put lace on shit. I do not want patterns on my clothes. So all my clothes are plain. I live in these beige jumpers. I don't really want flowers and patterns on my walls, my curtains, my chairs, my rugs. None of these things really are patterned. They're plain. So what the hell would I use that's made out of lace? And I did see a thing, and it was a tablecloth. Now, I do own some tables. I don't own a tablecloth. I thought I did. In fact, technically it's a bedspread, but somewhere there should be a hand-embroidered bedspread stroke tablecloth that my father made. Couldn't find it when he died, so don't know what he did with it, but because, well, it's full of flowers and shit. But I had hoped that I would inherit that and pretend that I cared, because he did make it for me. I don't think I ever got to use it because it's not very dog sensible. And that's the other thing is, yeah, maybe I could make a bedspread or something. Yep, I've got dogs. All that would happen is they'd get their claws in it and rip the shit out of it. So let's not. I don't want lace on I don't want lace frillies on my curtains. I don't want it on my clothes. I've got a Kindle, so I don't want bookmarks. I don't use tables to need a tablecloth. So what could I use? Well, my thought turned to the tablecloth and thought that, well, if nothing else, I could use it as a net curtain. So this is kind of where we're at. These, not these particular squares, but very similar squares were designed to be a tablecloth. And if they can be a tablecloth, well, then they can be a net curtain, in my mind. Because a lace tablecloth's never going to absorb the gravy and the spilt food, so you might as well have it as a net curtain. So this is what I'm doing. So I'm making 18 identical squares, and this is where we're at. I have made 2 squares and 3/4. So under here, look, as you can see, is the bottom of the square. So we are rapidly, well, I say rapidly, we are heading towards the end of square triangle number 12, because you make it in triangles. And it is going to be a net curtain. Now, last night, a discussion was had that net curtains are not a universal thing. Not everybody knows what a net curtain is. Now, I find it hard to believe that they don't have net curtains, kind of, they may not call them net curtains, but I'm pretty sure the concept of a net curtain is universal, in that it is a mesh-like curtain that goes nearer the window, between the window and an actual curtain. It provides no purpose of warmth or security, but it does provide a level of privacy. It's a bit like my glasses, in the sense that because it is a finer mesh and it is next to the window, when outside light would be shining in, it catches on the curtain and draws your attention to the curtain. When it's night time, the only thing that really captures people's vision is the shadow made on the curtain, not looking through the curtain. So, I mean, normally they're a much finer mesh than this, but because this is quite chunky and it will be right next to the window, it will still have a very similar principle to it. So, another similar thing are voiles, but they're usually for kind of like door type windows. But basically, you can get decorative net curtains so that they've got patterns and embroidery on, and sometimes you can get plain ones. And net curtains are something that I'd say the generation above mine would have always had on their windows and above. So my parents kind of generations would always have had them on the windows. People my generation and younger, yeah, whatever, right? I don't have net curtains on any of the windows here. They didn't come with it, and I haven't bothered to put any up. I do, however, have a blackout blind in my bedroom, because if I want to sleep till 1 in the afternoon, I want to sleep till 1 in the afternoon, and I frigging well will. I don't want to be woken up by sunshine. I will sleep until I'm done. And this works quite well, because it means that I get a good night's sleep. The only problem I've got is, funnily enough, the window that this net curtain is for has lost its curtains. Because, well, the curtain pole fell off the wall. And being a single person and struggling with balance and stability, I don't have a fear of heights. I don't really have a fear of falling. I have a fear of hitting the bomb. And so I can stare out the window of an aircraft from 30,000 feet, whatever, don't care. I can look over the edge of something really high up, don't care. As long as I feel utterly safe. So as long as the barrier, there's a glass barrier, or there is a rail, and it is sufficiently high that you can't inadvertently, kind of like pivot over the top and, somersault down to the plummets, right? I'm fine. Top of belfries, where maybe they're kind of, less than knee height, no, fuck off, not going up there. Standing on one of the, doctor's weighing machines that has the plate, that you step on a plate and the plate moves, yeah, I can't stand on that because it moves. It's only 2 inches off the floor, can't stand on it, it moves. So I struggle with standing on things like chairs and beds, and because, well, they're not stable. And so I haven't fixed the curtain rail because, well, I can't, because I really need 2 pairs of hands and I would need to be stable. So I really need someone else to do it for me. So I haven't done that. Which also is unfortunate because the sun rises straight through that window into my eyeballs. I then go, morning, and roll over, face the other direction and go back to sleep. But it is annoying, and the net curtain will not change that, I need to point out. The net curtain will not fix that problem. What I could do is put a blackout line on it, and then put the lace on the black side, which is the inside, so that, because it'll be white, because it is white, so it'll show up with the lights on, and it will look pretty. But from the outside, all they'll see is the white backing of the blackout blind. So, you know, I could do that. That's an option. Because to be honest, if I do have the curtains, chances are the curtains will permanently be drawn, and I will never see my net curtain. So, and as it is, I'm going to be the only one who has a chance of seeing it, because no one else comes up here. So, it goes upstairs. So, it's a bit of a tenuous hit, to be honest. But my problem is my brain likes doing big projects, and in terms of lace making, this is a big project. It's going to take about 1,000 hours, we worked out the other day. So with that in mind, it's not a small project. But my brain does this all the time. Hey, you've learnt a new skill. Why don't you do something impossibly large and complicated with it? Now, the large and the complicated and the size doesn't really put me off, clearly. But what I do need to do is this is going to be the kind of proof of pudding video, in that I'm recording every moment of me making this net curtain. And then when it's done, the next time my brain goes, hey, I know, you learnt to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that I might do that I don't currently, which is not a lot actually. Tatting, there you go, which is another form of lace making. You've learnt to tat. Hey, let's make a bedspread. Watch all those videos. I mean, in case you're ever interested, I have lost my marbles twice already in this process. One spectacularly so. So, well, at the rate of 1 a square, that's 18 losing marbles. I need to remind myself of this when it comes around to the next big idea that my brain gets, to say, hey, I know, using stickers, let's make a mural, 1mm beads or something, let's make a mural on my wall. No, let's not. This needs to be the no, let's pick something a little bit more practical first. Because to be honest, the net curtain was me dumbing it down. I kind of wanted to make a bedspread for the guest room. Not that I've even ever made the bed up in there, but that's so not the point. There is a bed in there. Mm-hmm. Actually, technically, there's 2. Actually, and then there's 2 in the other room, so I've got 4 beds I could make up. It's a really good point. I should empty that second bedroom up into the attic, which is why it's in there. All the shit that's in there is supposed to be up in the attic. It's got a really good view, actually, out of that bedroom. Make a great crafting room. But then I can't stream. Oh, I probably could. I could put another computer up there, couldn't I? Put a computer up there. That's a fair point. Something to think about this year, I suppose. I know what I was going to show you guys. It's not very easy to show you, but I know what I wanted to show you. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, let's shorten this. Now you'll have to forgive me while I hunt it down a bit. So let me do that for a minute so I can move my cushion sideways. Right, let me see if I can find the thing I wanted to show you. I just wanted to show you a really, really, really short part of something. I think it was this one. It might not have been this one. I saw it a minute ago. I clicked on it and found it by chance. Now I've got to find it again. It's probably around here somewhere. There. Right. You need to forgive this for being a bit blurry, right? So let me that doesn't look to be the right one. It is the right one. Okay, let's do this another way. Why not? I didn't mean to click on Path of Exile. Stop loading Path of Exile. Just because it's next to it's the last icon. Go away. I said, go away. Why are you not showing up here as the thing that I expect? Shrink you down so that I can... Fine. Let me just do your screen grab of it because it's obviously being crappy about it. I want to show you this. I was going to show you... just sit still, dog. Stop trampling non-existent grass. So let me put this in paint. There we go. And then we come over here and we click on that. And there you go. So if I now show you this, right? You can see this lovely lady. And in front of her, yes, it is blurry because it's a very old video. This is pattern 2 of a beginner's guide. Look how many bobbins there are on her pillow. She's got 2 piles of bobbins bigger than the piles that I have for my square. Do you want to know what she's actually building? Hang on, let me screen grab this. Because on the previous kind of... This is not the full picture, but to give you an idea, that's what she's building. It's not very big. This is their idea of a beginner's pattern. Now, I will say, in defence of their beginner's pattern, it is effectively 3 joined strips of different things. So on the left you've got the kind of wiggly circles. In the middle, you've got these kind of straight lines with some funkiness. And on the right, you have these big blobby bits with some funky in between them in the middle, right? And you can effectively work them as do funky bit on the left, do the middle bit, do the funky on the right, in essence. In practical terms, it's you kind of still work at diagonals, really. But that's their idea of a beginner's pattern. And because it's slightly blurry, even at its natural kind of resolution size, it still comes over as slightly blurry. It's actually slightly hard to follow, because it's like watching grainy old wartime film and trying to look at minute details in it. They're just missing. And obviously when you're dealing with tiny little threads that cross over and all the rest of it, you can't really see the thread detail. You can see blocks of thread, you can see where that there is a join that the two meet, but you can't see how they meet. You can't tell which went over what from looking at it, because it's not in that level of detail. So yeah, I was watching that and it was kind of like, what do you mean that is your idea of a beginner pattern? Holy crap. Especially as, realistically, the first one is still a lot of bobbins. They cover a couple of things, but it's still quite a lot of bobbins. And when I mean quite a lot of bobbins, I do mean quite a lot of bobbins. See if I can find a picture of the first amount of bobbins. Here you go. So this is pattern number 1, and they're making, realistically, a thing. It's not even a real thing, it's just a thing. So if I find paint, did I close paint? I think I did. Paint, do that, hit that. That is pattern number 1. Look at the number of her bobbins. Now she's got bigger sticks than me, right? So her sticks hold more bobbins. But as a beginner, you want like 20 bobbins. You want maybe 30 at a push. You want a couple of bobbins. And look at the size of the pillow she's got. Look, I mean, unless she's got like tiny wee baby hands, right? Look, bear in mind those bobbins are about 4 inches, so her hands look to be smaller than mine, but not, you know, significantly smaller than mine. They're just woman-sized hands, right? Look how big that pillow is. So I would never be able to get close enough to look at any mistakes because I've got boobs in the way. But look how many bobbins she's got. Look at it. It's frightening. That this is the beginner. It's not intermediate. It's not, you know. This is... You have never done this crap before in your life. Now, I do assume that they think you will have learned other lace making techniques beforehand. But even so, dude, have you seen those bobbins? That's a lot of bobbins to be keeping track of and fannying about with. And this is a technique which I vaguely mentioned before. It's spelt B-I-N-C-H-E, and I call it binch. It's French, so it won't be called binch. But not... Exactly. That, yeah, you know, as a finger painting, I need you to pull off the Sistine Chapel. It's a frightening amount of freaking bobbins. And it's I mean, as someone who's not put off by complexity or size, I still feel that that's a tad much for a beginner. I do look at, like a lot of these things, while I do appreciate that whether you cross two, you're only crossing 2 bobbins at a time sort of thing, whether you've got 5,000 or 5, does it really matter? But the answer is, as we all know from my antics with the bobbins and the keeping them out the way and being tidy and being able to have enough room to work, it can matter. And now I'm quite fortunate in that, because obviously we're making a lot of these squares, I am quite used to well, at this particular point I change this, or I work in that direction, or I just struggle with it for a bit. But when it comes down to it, it is wrong. Very wrong, I think, that claiming that is a beginner level. The complexity might be beginner level, but the doing thereof, not so much. I mean, for example, my squares are made out of cross and twist. From that point of view, it's beginner. But you also wouldn't expect a beginner to do something this big as their first thing. When you learn something, you need to learn in smaller chunks and get that little bit of dopamine from successfully doing a smaller thing. If you were learning to knit and you did one of those, make a 10 centimetre by 10 centimetre square, and you made a number of squares, you can make, say, 2 or 3 squares in an evening and feel pleased with yourself because you made 2 or 3 squares. If you made the blanket in one piece and did 1 row, you do not feel pleased with your progress. You do not feel pleased with being able to look at it and go, I did that, because, well, you can't even see what you did, right? For a beginner, you need those small bite-sized steps to encourage you to feel you can work a little bit more. It's like exercise. You don't wake up from being a sloth on a couch potato for 20 years and go, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow. You need to build up to it. You need to progress slowly and build up your stamina. And mentally, you do the same with a new learning process. This is why when you go on a training course, even if it's a really dull training course that you know far more than the instructor knows, you still come home really tired every day because you're in a room having to think about the subject, potentially, listening to the instructor going, well, that'll never bloody work, and then watching them fail and trying not to laugh and say, I told you so. Whatever, right? But it's why when you go on a training course, you come home so tired. Because mentally, you are trying to run a marathon, having maybe coasted along in that subject for a really long time. And you just don't do it. Training courses, obviously, you don't have a lot of choice. If your company sends you on a week-long course for some crap, you go along and everyone else is going out everyone else is setting up to go out in the evening, and full well that by 8 o'clock you're going to be sparko on the bed, and you won't wake up till, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning for the next round. That can be a solid and real thing. And so for a beginner pattern, for beginners in all of this, if you ever watch the YouTube videos for beginners, right? They show you really slowly, here is how to do this stitch. Here is me working a small amount of it. Here is, a little pattern that you can do now on your own to practice. It's like music. When you learn to play a musical instrument, they will show you how to play a note. Any particular note. On a piano or whatever, it's a bit easier because you bang the key and it's it. They don't really have to show you how to play it. But on a flute, when there's fingering, or violin, when there's choices of strings, and all this clarinets, oboes, whatever it is, right? When you have choices and the wrong one will just produce, you know, a death curdle or a strangled cat, they show you the fingering, they tell you the note, this is note this. They then get you to play either a tune that has, I mean, one of the first things Tune a Day will have you do is Merrily We Roll Along. Or, apparently to the rest of the world, Mary Had a Little Lamb. I did not know this because I didn't know Mary Had a Little Lamb had a tune to it. But Mary Had a Little Lamb. And it's 3 frigging notes. But it's great because it teaches you those 3 notes, you then use them, and you have used them in a tune. And instantly, your brain is happier than just playing this note, that note, the other note. Because you were told to, right? And it's the same with scales. Part of the reason for playing scales is not because of playing the scale. Screw the scale. It is good because it makes you play a particularly pleasant sounding... Well, I say pleasant because minor scales never sound pleasant. But, you know, play a fairly pleasant sounding thing and prove that you can play all the notes in it. And it's usually 1, 2 or 3 octaves depending on whatever it is you're playing, right? There's breathing techniques for scales and all this kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is very early on, the early scale playing is to test you that you remember where all of those, how to make all of those sounds, and that you play something at the end of it, if it's a major scale, that sounds pleasant. And when it comes to learning things, you need those kinds of building blocks. You need to, here is how to do this. Here is how to use this in a very minor, probably never would actually do it in reality, but here is a minor how to do it. So in lace making, part of the reason my fascination with bookmarks is not because they are bookmarks. Although you can give a good bookmark away, the truth of the matter is it is really no more than a glorified strip, right? And you can do a strip of insert, you know, stitch X and call it a bookmark if you so desired. Because, well, it's, especially in lace making, it's flat, so whatever, right? And this is not right. I have not got... I have food pod! Ouch, come. You are not correct. You are incorrect, my friend. I needed to pin you. There. So, you know, from that point of view, you need the practice strips. You need lace making scales, and bookmarks realistically can be that. They are your tune a day. They're short, they're smallish, they're practical. They have, you know, you can use them at the end of it. Bigger things are a bit more personal preference. Because, well, you know, yes, you could, you know, I could make some form of arguably picture out of lace and put it on my wall. Why would I do that? It's not something I would ever do, but, you know, people do. You can make wall hangings out of it. Again, why? Don't see the point. The only other thing that it could be good for in my house is some of my internal doors. In fact, the majority of my downstairs internal doors. Not all of them, of course, because that would be far too simple. There is one internal door that I kind of get that it's not got a window in it. And then there's one that makes no sense that it doesn't have a window in it, which is the study. The study would be nice with a window in it because it would let a bit more light in the hallway. But you could make a net curtain to go over that to, again, bit of privacy kind of thing. So let some light in and out, but without seeing truly through it. My old back door had net curtain on the back door, which had a big glass pane in it. And that allowed, again, for privacy. Although in a very stupid place, because all that was the other side of the back door was basically a big fence with a load of ivy on it. No one was seeing through that shit in a hurry. So, and it was also where the dogs went to poo, because it was dog poo alley. So if you were down there and looking through the window, good luck to you, you know. But yeah, in terms of learning anything, you want small bite-sized portions, small chunks that, you know, it's like programming exercises. When they, you know, if they teach you to program, they don't sit down and go. I mean, I remember learning C++ in 24 hours, or 21 days, I think it was. They don't have you making a Windows program on day one. That comes like day 18, 19 even. It's quite late in the book. Because they have you establish logic first, which is the right way to do it. And they have you make things like, you know, print out the input X, print out the X times table, right? You know, that kind of crap. So you've got a for loop, you've got some variables, you've got some inputs, you've got some, you know, all this kind of usual kind of rubbish but it gives you something that's small and manageable that you can make fairly quickly, see a result from, that, you know, should it all go a bit Pete Tong, there's only so many things that can go wrong with it because it's really quite simple. And, you know, you can then kind of fix it up and you know, perform surgery on it until it works. And you need that. And the same's true with lace making and any other skill. You don't sit there and go, right, I know the theory of cross stitch is up here, down there, cross is formed, next stitch, right? Because that's all that cross stitch is. However, the actual truth is most people would not, as their first pattern, choose to start on, you know, an A1 wall picture, right? Because, well, there's too much of it. You get bored of it. There's too much scope to be making minor stupid mistakes that are going to show really, really badly because it's such a large piece, and if not everything's equal and same, it's going to show up even more. To be honest, the Biscornu that I'm working on, which I have done a middle layer, by the way, now. I've done like the purpley kind of outline of flower for the middle. But, you know, most people wouldn't pick that, and it's only 8 centimetres square, and you don't fill in half of it because it takes too long. It's also quite small, so it's not easy to see what you're doing. So again, you want something bigger and simple and that will grow quickly enough and become a functional thing. Now, the Biscornu in that sense at least will be functional, and you can argue that it serves purpose, but from what I can tell, it's going to be too small and I'll hate it. But, you know, we're blowing on. And, you know, we do need to consider that. And, you know, I do think at some point I will do some videos on getting started or designing some of your own pictures, or, you know, to kind of, again, distract the brain from the fact that we're making 72 identical triangles, because, you know, it is going to be a problem, frankly. So it's, but again, you need those videos to be Here is a really small step. Here is how to take that step. Here is what you can do with that step in relation to the other steps that we've talked about. So, you know, obviously you have cross, which is left over right, and twist, right over left. This is all lace making is made of. All it is. However, there are pinnings and befores and afters and things, picots and tallies and other complicated things which are made out of all of those, but really make your brain hurt. Then there's the how do you start, how do you finish. Making the finish look tidy is real hard. As we know from some of my shenanigans, the finishing of is harder than it sounds. Adding beads. I've got some beads I can add to it, she says, suddenly realising. Where did that go? My usual box of two squares I've done and some other bits is no longer on my table. Did I hide it somewhere briefly over here while I was sorting something else out? I must have. Oh, there it is. It's over there. That's all right. That's right. It's on. I've put it far, far away. But you know, I've got some beads. I've got some more beads on order, so that you can put beads in it to make it pretty, ish, sparkly, for want of a better word. I do think, to an extent, that the lace curtain could do with some beads on it. I think that could make it quite pretty because the beads would add a little bit of weight. So down the bottom you could do something with a bit of beads. I do think that a bit of sparkle could be quite pretty. You know, have the light reflecting around the room a little bit. That would be quite pretty. But I don't know whether it would work with these squares. Sorry, minor death. So, as we all know, my brain is already going, yeah, now we know that we could do this, because we've proved that we've done one square, so we could do more of them. How about doing one in Buck's Point and making it in one piece? And there's a bit of my brain going, yeah, do. And then there's the other bit going, no. Just no. We're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. No, we won't be joining in with that one. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to want to do it. But again, you see, I'd be very tempted to add some beads to that to make it a bit more sparkly, a bit more fun. A lot of the bookmarks seem to have beads and sequins in. Sequins I can get because you can make them lie flat. Beads I'm less sure about because, well, if you've got a heavy book and you stick it in the book, it's going to dent the paper where the beads were. And my brain's going, well, that's a really dumb idea. Don't really want to do that. Can we not? You know? So I do kind of find myself a little bit torn in that respect, in that I kind of like the idea of some kind of good quality glass sparkly beads to make the light refract around and make, you know, pretty sparkles, but it's just pretty sparkles. And so with that in mind, you know, it's certainly, I don't think it's going to be something I would add to this net curtain. I don't think this net curtain lends itself to positional sparkles. I mean, could do something with maybe these squares and do something where I've got the rose ground and change it for something so it's now got beads or sequins or something in it to sparkle. You know, that could be a thing. Maybe make them out of normal ground stitch and put beads in kind of where each of the rose grounds would be or something. To make some sparkly sparkle. But again, there is kind of like, it feels like I'd be forcing it in there rather than knowing that it would look good. Because once again, you know, you can't really mock this up and decide, yes, it will look great. You can't decide in advance, and you have to kind of go down, you know, nearly a week's worth of lace making, decide whether to make it, decide if you even remotely like it, and the answer probably is no. So, you know, with that in mind, there is a bit of me that's not going to try. But I do think it could look nice with sparkles. I do think it would look quite nice with some sparkle, because it will catch the sun, because I know it catches the sun every morning. I do on my phone have a beautiful picture of the other morning. Funnily enough, the morning I had to go to work, go into the office. And you know, they say red morning, you know, red at night, shepherd's delight, red in the morning, shepherd's warning. Well, this was the reddest of mornings, which was quite amusing. Where is it? This is not a doctored picture, and I've obviously got a lock set on my phone. Oh, for goodness sake, I just turned that off. Don't know if you can overly see that, but that was not an edited photo. That is, I took it as I was about to walk down the stairs, just pulled my camera out, click, right? It was red. It was like, you know, and no, that's not it on fire, which would have been nice, because it would have been the direction of work, funnily enough. I did joke about it to co-worker when I sent the picture in. Rory, get your butt in. Because, you know, everyone knows the Red in the Mornings, you know, song. So it's kind of like, you know, well, then, you know, Red in the Morning, Shepherd's Warning, and we're all going to work. And we were right. Take care, Nautical. Be safe. Hope you and your furry little lodgers come to an agreement shortly, and they leave, preferably quickly, and if necessary, dead. Good luck with that. Have a good evening. Roll you all this way. Why have I put the pin there? To stop all the bobbins falling off the cushion. You. No. No. I did not twist them. I didn't know you had warfarin cake, but, you know, each their own. So, let's unpin each of these. Actually, killing rats with warfarin is possibly one of the cruelest things you can do. I know it's a common way of dealing with it, but it is one of the cruelest things you can do. I mean, I know they're rats and I don't like them, but even I struggle with the old warfarin stuff. Because warfarin, it's a blood thinner. Give it to people. I've been on warfarin. well, what it does to rats is actually quite horrific. Probably would do it to humans if you did it at big enough doses, but obviously the dose for a rat and the dose for a human is significantly different. That was the wrong pin. Unfortunately, it was the pin after this one, so it doesn't really matter. What happens is it thins their blood, which is fine, because, you know. But what it does is it means that they then bleed internally, and, you know, it's a bit like if you bang yourself, if you have a... Oh, just sit still. If you have a clotting disorder, you can get into trouble because you won't necessarily stop bleeding. Well, this is what happens when you're on warfarin. It stops your blood clotting, and what it does do is, obviously, in excessive amounts to a rat is all of nothing because it's a rat. What it does is it means that the body stops clotting, the body stops working properly because the blood is no longer working in the right way, and they basically bleed in their brain, they bleed into their lungs. It is quite horrific. So warfarin for rats is quite cruel in that respect, because I can't imagine it's pleasant. I mean, you're trying to kill them, there's no such thing as... I mean, someone once pointed out there is no such thing as a humane death, because, well, you're killing them. Yeah. But, in principle, there is ways to do it with a little dignity and kindness, and a way not to. And warfarin is definitely a not to category. One to be avoided, I feel. I mean, traps are a thing, but then that just means they get to live and annoy somebody else, so... it's not always ideal. I'm not sure what the best answer is, but there's just a bit of me that knows that warfarin is a very unpleasant way. You know, it's the same as some of these, you know, nerve gas type things for humans that, you know, are obviously banned, you know, in thousands of places, because, you know, it's just, you know, you're a terrorist or whatever, you know. If you use it because, well, it's just so ghastly and unpleasant that, you know, it's a hideous crime to do it. And, you know, warfarin is that to a rat. I'm sure there are other drugs that do it too, but, yeah. Mind you, imagine ant pellet powder things aren't any better, because they apparently taste sweet to the ant, which encourages it to take it home, and then it poisons everybody. So I'm pretty sure that's not really a good plan either. But again, once again, they're ants. It's not. I mean, I know ants are sentient. I mean, but it's not quite the same, really. Doesn't make it right, of course, but... need to make a bigger pin pusher. And then we can pop you over there for a second, grab you and empty you, because we love putting pins, because we get to see what we've made. For it hides and lurks behind the pins, and then you realise you screwed up, and then you hate yourself. Because by the time you've pulled the pins, you ain't going back that far. Because that's why you pulled the pins, because you were done. You are not going back there again. There we go. Looks alright. So obviously, if you weren't here at the beginning, the bits that I've just pulled the pins out of is the bit that I did yesterday, and the bits with pins in it is the stuff from today. And that's not why I've pulled the pins to differentiate them, it's because this is just the next layer. What time is it? 5:15. Has it really been 3.5 hours? My back hasn't hurt too much. Now, part of me says keep going, the other half of me says don't annoy your back and maybe you can do plenty tomorrow. So I'm going to go with the do plenty tomorrow or potential option rather than annoying my back to the point that I have to stop, on the simple grounds that at least this way there is a chance that tomorrow I'm still in a reasonable shape and get to do a reasonable amount before my back hurts. Now we all know that this is not how it works, and that it will hurt the moment I start and I'll hate myself for not having done more today. But it is also potentially true that by not pushing it too hard today, that I will be in a better shape tomorrow and we can do 3-4 hours and, you know, kind of make the most of it. So we should be doing some of that. Hopefully, that's the plan. I need my green pokey stick to swivel you round on. So yes, but I'd like to have stayed to do more. But I feel pushing my luck is probably not the best option. Plus it is also getting hungry time. So it is a little earlier than I'd have liked, but it is a good place to stop. So that's kind of where we're at, really. I need to take a photo because we do that. And the ads are coming, so another good reason. This is why I locked my screen from turning, so that I could, yeah. Right, well, part of me apologises, part of me does not. We've had a pleasant time today. I hope that you will be able to join me for tomorrow, for I will return tomorrow, assuming that no national disasters strike. So yes, I shall hopefully be back tomorrow, and we can continue making our happy net curtain. Sorry, I'm just going to push my pillow far to the side to get it away from the dog. And yes, with any luck, we shall do considerably more. Maybe that next strip across the middle, which is slightly bigger than the one we did today, but not a lot, but slightly bigger. And, you know, as always, come the end of the weekend, with any luck, I shall be spending Sunday or Saturday sewing it together, which we all know how much fun I have doing that. Anyone got some acid for me to dip my face in, I think. Yeah. Anyway, not looking forward to that, as we know, but I've only got to do it 18 times, so small mercies. And of course, that's the other thing about doing it in a big one, is only have to do it once. Sewing in the end. So that could be a thing. That could definitely be a thing. Anyway, take care, and I will see you tomorrow. And look after yourselves. Bye-bye.